with America's Mayor Live, and you won't believe it. We're in Georgia, not too far from Fernie. Maybe we'll visit. See if we can talk her into doing the right thing. Now, what would the right thing be? First thing, to dismiss all the innocent people that she's prosecuting. Now, I'm going to have to get a list because I don't even know who they are. I am alleged to have been a co-conspirator with them, but Franny misses the point that one of her chief witnesses said she never talked to me about the case. It's hard to be a conspirator when you haven't talked to somebody about the case, and that's their witness who says that. But in any event, of course, the real problem in the case is it is a complete rejection of the First Amendment. Someone today, a rather well-educated person, said, don't they teach the First Amendment in law school anymore, given Fanny's just complete trashing of it. That was the thing that was wrong with Fanny, because before it turned out that she was a liar, possibly, allegedly, a thief of her own campaign cash, because it's never been resolved or discussed, has it? In the middle of her sworn testimony, she said, quote, I took money from my campaign account, cash. And that's how I had all that cash. And that's why I was able to pay my lover boy cash for our love trips. And, but we have no receipts. We have no witnesses. We have no pieces of paper. We got nothing to support, even though there are 5 witnesses that say that they were having a love affair well before she hired him, and that she hired him knowing he was her lover boy. And I have a theory as to why she really hired him. They wanted to whack up the money, and they came up with an extra phony grand jury. But she also had a nice confidential go-between between her and the White House. They all needed that because it's like a circle here. It's all the White House right here, and it's all the White House right here. And you got Bragg coming into it, and you've got a dishonest prosecutor Smith. Yeah. Remember, he's the one who framed the governor of Virginia, ruined his career as a possible presidential candidate, and then the guy was set free by the Supreme Court, and you know why? Because of Smith's misconduct. So Smith has actually done, as we say in real life, what Trump is alleging he's doing to him. He's framed a man, and the Supreme Court vote of 9-0 has reprimanded him for it. And our dishonest Attorney General, what's his name? Crook Garland, he picked him. So you say to yourself, why would you pick a DA or a U.S. attorney who frames people, or even has it on his record? For the same reason that Fanny the Hoe picked her lover boy. Nice go-between. And then you got Smith in the completely ridiculous case in Florida, which they tried to move to D.C. so they could get a fixed jury. You know what the record of the D.C. juries are, the January 6th defendants? 100% conviction. You know what their usual rate of conviction is? Because they're a really, really shitty U.S. Attorney's Office, 67%. You know what a U.S. Attorney's Office usually is? 90. So you got that one, and then finally you got the best one of all, Bragg's case, which is 1, barred by the statute of limitations, 2, not a case. To bolster it as a felony, he's using a federal crime, which he can't do. He's not a federal prosecutor, and people aren't even sure it's a crime. There are opinions saying it isn't a crime, including one in Mueller's report. So there isn't a case here that isn't like either not a crime, like the First Amendment one, and we're right here in Georgia where they want to put me in jail for the rest of my life. I don't know if I better get out of here quick, right? I'll make an escape. Don't say anything. Okay, Ted? We'll get ourselves. We're actually, I should tell you, the real reason is we come back from Florida. We want to be on time for the funeral of Officer Diller tomorrow, which has, I have told you and admitted to you, and I feel like it's probably better now that I do that. It's better for me, at least, that this really hit me very hard. The slaughter of this young man. I don't know him, right? But I feel like I do. I feel like I do know him. You know, it's more. It's more than just having been mayor. It's growing up from the time I was a little boy. My godfather was a police officer. His three brothers were police officers. My father's youngest brother was police officer. Two of my cousins were police officers who were not quite contemporaries, but sort of older models for me. Um, one of the things, my earliest memories is watching my uncle, who was my godfather. We lived in the same house, coming home with a uniform on. He was a tall, handsome man too, and he was very striking in that uniform. Um, and then all the stories, just sitting around like a kid, you listen to all the stories, and um, then I went into being a prosecutor, and as a prosecutor in New York, even as a federal prosecutor, even as a line prosecutor, I did a lot of cases with the NYPD, and I had a really kind of a partner, Carl Bogan, who was he was called 30 years in the police department. He's a detective with the New York City Police Department. He came to us as an investigator, but he was a cop through and through. And then when I was U.S. attorney, I used police for all my investigations, particularly homicide investigations. And then I got the great honor of being the commander in chief, right, as the mayor, the way the president is, of the police department, with through three extraordinary police commissioners, one of whom I hope we can have on tonight, Bertie Carrick. So it's a close connection. And this killing of officers, was it so hurtful because you saw it coming, and it was produced clearly by political decisions. When they ask, what's the cause of crime 30 years ago or 20, it could be a complex one. And there were politics involved then too, extremely left-wing, criminal-loving Democrats, but not to the extent now. Now it's the sole cause. Carl Hasty, we played him last night saying, do we have it again? I mean, this is really, this could be the poster boy for why we are where we are. I think, you play this all over America, like here in Georgia, and put this is Democrat dogma. You're not far off. This is what they're doing to us, and this is why they're doing it to us. And this is an extraordinarily dangerous statement, and an extraordinarily ignorant statement, and an extraordinarily Marxist statement, all in one.
I just don't believe raising penalties is ever a deterrent on crime. There's already things in current law to deal with people who assault other people.
He couldn't be more.
Again.
I just don't believe raising penalties is ever a deterrent on crime.
Okay. He doesn't believe that raising penalties will ever deter crime. So he lowered penalties, like they lowered penalties for pedophilia in California. I mean, you got to be out of your mind to lower penalties for pedophilia, or maybe you got to be even worse than out of your mind. Why are they doing this? And the reason the statement is so stupid and applies clearly to this, Guy Rivera, who is the 21 time at that time arrested, now 22 time arrested career criminal, had he been kept in jail as a career criminal when we had such a thing, brought by me from the Attorney General's Task Force on Violent Crime in 1982. I mean, it's most of my agenda you can find in that report. It also would be known to you as 3 strikes and you're out. Well, obviously, a career criminal doesn't apply anymore. You can have a whole big, long career in crime and not have it interrupted very much. But you get 2, 3 felonies like that, you go away forever. Well, for a lot longer than he did, that's for sure. Now, had he been put in jail, Mr. Hasty would have been proven wrong because Officer Diller would be alive today. And your law, Hasty, that you, number one, sponsored, and number two, have stubbornly refused to change, even at the request of Governor Hochul, who got thrown out of the funeral today because she doesn't have either the guts or the capability to beat you. That's the reason this man is dead. She deserved it because she shouldn't be a governor. She can't take control of her own party. You're not a member of an opposite party. Unfortunately and tragically for the state, you're both Democrats. You've been killing New York for 2 centuries, Democrats. Go back to Boss Tweed, the amount you've stolen from our city. The reason our poor neighborhoods are poor is because your politicians have stolen the money intended to go there. We'd be rich as hell if it wasn't for the Democrat Party. To us, the party is slavery, the party is segregation, and the party of 150 years of Boss Tweeds. And I put my fair share of them in jail. One of them even committed suicide before he went off to jail because he had so much to say. I think he was afraid, and I think the city bigwigs pushed him into suicide to shut him up. We'll tell that story someday. There are people involved in that one that got away with it. Wow, they were so happy he died. Whoa. Well, tomorrow is the funeral. It'll be at 10:30, Ted, at St. Rose of Lima Church in Massapequa. It's a beautiful church. If you followed the funerals on September 11th, you remember that it was used, as was the funeral home that is there. Several people that have been at the funeral tell me what a beautiful and wonderful family they are, including the president, who made a real connection, I think, with the family. And as I told you last night, and will tell you, I am eternally grateful to him for doing that, because it's something that no one else can do but a president. It reinforces the significance of their son, brother, brother-in-law, husband, father. It just reinforces it. Does it take the pain away? Of course not. Does it ease it a little? Mm-hmm. Does it give the death an explanation? Serving the people. Yeah. And can it make you very angry that it wasn't necessary, as it obviously did? Today, Governor Hochul, for this, they didn't pass this bill. She was not really, I have to say, in fairness, she was not particularly opposed to it until Adams came along. And also until it started to set in and people getting shot, killed, raped, beaten, women now just sucker punched, and then people let out right away. She didn't really change her mind on this until it got really bad, and until Adams was running for mayor, and he sort of it became a big issue with Lee Zeldin, who almost defeated Adams, and she promised that she would try to change it. And in fact, at times she went even further than that, and Adams, I think, probably trusted that she would, but they haven't been able to do it. And I also have to say, in fairness, they haven't made the real effort that could be made by any skillful, well, not even so skillful a politician. I mean, I know when a politician is really trying and when they're not. And they're not. They never criticize them by name. They never go into the district and threaten to campaign against them. They never point out their responsibility for deaths like this. You know, I would have done that. You have examples of it. You know, Ed Koch used to do that. Don't remember if Mike had to do that or did do that, but my boss, Ronald Reagan, taught me how to do it. I learned it from how he got the tax bill passed for the Democratic Congress one of their districts and made it real hard for them. He could have made it real hard for Carl Hastie. Adams could, except maybe they probably have deals together. Look, and I don't mean this in terms of just money going back and forth. I mean it in a lot of different ways, even like on something like this. It's a corrupt political party. It's a decrepit, largely, in some places when they're in power for too long, a crime machine. Well, you look at a man who I really do want to just mention his name, Jason Voles, who was killed by a deranged career criminal named Carlton McPherson. Also, someone who was arrested shortly before, a couple months before he threw Mr. Voles on the track and could have been put in. He could have been put in if we had laws that were tougher. We don't, because the speaker doesn't believe that these laws will deter crime, and the governor and the mayor don't have the balls to go to battle with him in the right way. Gosh, between the two of them, they could really, I think, slap him around. How about you put out a report every week of the people in this district that have been victimized by people let out on bail in his district? Put it out as a police department report. Do it in his district and in the majority leader's district. Give it a shot. Say Giuliani made you do it. See what happens. Mr. Voles would definitely be alive today if we didn't have someone like Carl Hastie in the assembly. Because if the man who killed him was in jail, he couldn't have killed him. Now, it does sound kind of stupid for me to say that, doesn't it? But that's as stupid as what I'm responding to. And this guy is a powerful guy who is that stupid. The man who killed him, just a crime machine. Just like Rivera, just like the guy who claims he was a hitchhiker with Rivera. I don't get that. He was driving the car. Isn't the hitchhiker usually the guy who's the passenger in the car, Ted? And then we get the White House getting involved in this. Biden never calls the family, just like he ignored Laken Riley until Marjorie Taylor Greene sucker punched him, and then he kind of proved. I mean, he was better than Marjorie had any right to believe. He couldn't say the lady's name right, who died. Wow! Imagine if Donald Trump had gotten George Floyd's name wrong, called him Ralph Floyd. They accuse him of racism absolutely fictitiously and maliciously. Man, can you imagine? But he's making a big deal. I know her name, Lincoln Riley. No, Joe, the button you're looking at says Laken. I don't know. You can't be that stupid. Or after the video we showed you last night, maybe you'll conclude that he is. But he is that cold and mean and cruel. When you become as amoral as he does, and you take money from Red China and you take money from Russia, and you go to dinner with the woman who gave you the money, Baturina, and you lie and say you never met any of your sons and brothers, foreign crooks that they did business with. But you had dinner with her twice. You had dinner with her twice at Cafe Mono. It's documented. There are 5 witnesses. You're on video. You're on tape, acknowledging your knowledge of your son's foreign business. That I'd use that as the false exculpatory statement to nail you. I think I've explained false exculpatory statement enough so that all of you know that although the press doesn't bother to ever explain it to you, it's golden in a trial. They also never, ever, ever, and we're going to start emphasizing it on every show, to point out that the essential core financial agreement of the RICO case is spelled out absolutely perfectly to the letter by Hunter Biden to his daughter around Christmas time of 2018, in which he says that I paid for all the expenses of the family for 30 years and had to give my father half my salary. There you go. That's how he acted as a bad man, bagman. Well, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to search around this gigantic, beautiful house. And we are going to find, I hope, the former police commissioner, Bernard Carrick.
The new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
We are back with America's Mayor live from the state of Georgia. And I have with me the police commissioner, Bernie Carrick, the great police commissioner of New York City, who reduced crime after people thought it was impossible to continue to reduce crime. And I think he may have had the best numbers. And he sure as hell had the best numbers in the correction department. You literally wiped out violence in the correction department. And now now I don't know what it is. I mean, it doesn't even exist anymore, right? It's gotten ruined.
Well, now
they're out on the street.
Yeah, the jail system doesn't have anybody in it because they let them all out.
Bernie,
You know, our population, Mayor, if you remember, was about 22,000. That was our daily population. They've got about 4,000 in the system now.
although I may be wrong, I say that there are about 5,000 to 7,000 people walking around the city that would not be walking around the city if you and I were when we were operating, or maybe even Bloomberg at the beginning.
And maybe that number's
Is that
a little
right?
high.
Could it
Yeah,
be
that's
higher?
no, it could be a little higher than that. But the bottom line is, there would be a lot more people in jail today if Governor Hochul would eliminate the bail reform stuff, give the judges the authority and the ability to hold people, let the judges have the authority to see their pedigree when they walk into court so they could see their priors. And then I think the thing you did most was force the DAs to do their job by holding out money if they didn't.
Yeah, and also, over a period, it took a while, but I appointed different judges.
Right.
So I sat and interviewed every judge I appointed. I don't know if Adams does that. And I made them explain to me that they would hold people who were a danger to the community.
Yeah.
And that they wouldn't just be, oh, we have no choice. You have inherent authority as a judge to protect the public. And it was my case when I was U.S. Attorney in the Supreme Court, United States against Salerno, that established you could do that. So I really understood it, and I explained it to them. And I used every time Christiane or Sonny would, Christine or Sonny would walk in and say, a judge let another one out. First thing I said was, did I appoint him?
Yeah, right.
Lucky we didn't have
Yeah,
it. I would have gone and I would have called you up and said, Bernie,
I'm going to tell you
come
something.
out of there.
You know what the problem is today? If somebody walked in to the mayor today, nobody cares if they appointed them. Nobody really cares.
So
if
when they
somebody
see
else
these
got out.
judges, like the Judge Merchant, right, daughter had a thing with Trump behind bars.
Mhm.
Now they're all angry at Trump for criticizing that. You have every right. If this guy was trying, I mean, if the judge in Georgia had a kid who had a picture of me behind bars, I'd want him off the case.
Yeah, except Trump doesn't have any First Amendment rights.
He doesn't either, as a result of being with him.
Yeah, he has none. So he's not allowed to say anything about anyone to anyone. You
I
just,
mean, I've never heard of. I think if your daughter is caught with a picture of the guy you have on trial behind bars when he's a major public figure, you got to get off the case. And plus, by the way, Merchant is an acting Supreme Court justice for 22 years. There's got to be a point they either do it or get off the pot.
Yeah, but-
He's a complete political hack.
The mayor,
That
you-
means
you know
he's there at the sufferance of the Democrat bosses, and you know how honest and honorable they are.
But you know what? I think the problem with today is years ago, and this is as close to maybe 10, but for sure 15, 20 years ago, the Democratic Party, if there was someone that, was engaged in some of this, shenanigans or taking care of their people or whatever the case may be, if the press picked up on it, they'd have to recuse themselves. They would do it. And if they didn't do it, the rest of the party would force them to do it.
Yeah,
You
but now,
got to get out. Today,
yeah,
some of these people are pure criminals and nobody
Yeah.
says a word. Nobody pushes.
it's all get Trump.
It's all get Trump.
And, it's,
And at
so-
any cost. At any
and
cost.
the cost is we no longer have a fair and impartial, anything close to a fair and impartial justice system.
No.
When they keep saying it's a two-tier justice system. Well, that's no justice system at all.
That's not a justice.
If there can't be one for you and one for me, it's got to be the same for the two of us.
Right.
That's what justice is about. And we're getting these crime waves too. You understand? You were right there. So, and not just people should know that you were a hero cop, one of the most decorated police officers in our city. He's the real thing, not one of these. The commissioners that come on. Like that. You know what asked me about the happen, Bernie? I know a lot of them don't have to happen, but this one really didn't have to. That guy should have been in jail as a career criminal. What the hell ever happened to 3 strikes and you're out? This guy had about 20 strikes.
Well, listen, what about forget about the 3 strikes. He had a gun possession in April of last year. Remember years ago, whether it was sports players, no matter who it was, if you were found in possession of a gun, especially during the commission,
Burroughs.
right, especially in the commission of another,
I got angry about that because
You
the
got-
Giants were on the way to the Super Bowl.
you got, you got convicted, and it was a mandatory sentence to go to prison.
Yeah.
Now, the judges don't hold them. They let them out on bail. They do what they want. This guy shouldn't have been on the streets in the first place. 21 priors. I think 14 out of the 21 were felonies. Come on. It's ridiculous.
When Carl Hasty says, like he's intelligent, I don't believe that extending penalties deters crime. Hasn't he ever figured out if you keep the criminal in jail longer, he doesn't commit crimes for those days?
Yeah, but
And these guys are crime machines, right? You put them out, they commit a crime. Today, tomorrow. If you caught them on 22, how many did you commit in that period of time? What do you think? 100?
Listen. And think about this from the perspective of mass transit, right? We had that shooting in the subway system last week, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no.
After the
No,
governor,
they're safe.
after the governor put all those people in the subway system, still had somebody shooting. And when the press talked to me about it, I reminded them, when you took over New York City in 1994 and we started to hammer people jumping over the turnstiles, 50 to 55% of the people that we locked up for jumping a turnstile were wanted felons.
Yeah, same
They
thing
were
with the
wanted for
squeegee
murder,
people.
they were wanted for guns, they were wanted for other stuff. 50%.
Same thing with the squeegees.
And it's
You
this,
thought they were harmless. Half of them were violent criminals.
and the same thing goes today. It's the same kind of stuff. The difference between today and then is nobody's addressing the smaller crime. Nobody's addressing the quality of life crime. Nobody's addressing the jump in the turnstiles. They have to do it as an initiative. That stuff should be going on a daily basis.
Okay, so we have the crime that I think is a modern crime, which is you walk up to the old man and you just hit him in the head and knock him down. You go up to the woman, and now apparently there was a lot of them that even come forward. You go up to them and just, for the hell of it, punch her in the head. You don't take anything, you don't do anything. Or in the case of Mr. Voles, you throw him on the tracks and get him killed by a train for no reason. We have like an epidemic of crimes like this. I don't remember that many.
No, you didn't have that many.
Motiveless crime, a crime without a motive of any kind, not drugs, not a fight, not.
You didn't have that many because there was accountability. The guys know today they can pull this stunt 3, 4, 5 times. One, before they get caught, and two, even if they get caught, they're not getting held. Nobody's going to hold on to them. Nobody's going to lock them up. They're going to get, they go in, they get locked up, they get sent out on a desk appearance ticket, and they're back on the street in 4 hours.
Which underscores what James T. Wilson said, 40 or 50 years ago, borne out in every one of the programs we did. It's far fewer people committing a lot more crimes than you think.
Right.
It doesn't mean
Listen,
it's a few people, but it's much. People used to think there were like 10,000 squeegee people in the city. There were less than 1,000.
The chief of patrol, who I personally, I tell you, I really like him today. The chief of patrol, his name is Chell. His name is Chell. I like this guy, and I like him because it doesn't make any difference what's going on and who's doing what politically. He's called out the city council. He's called out other legislators, and he came out and said, "There's 300 people responsible for 80% of the crime in the subways. And that number may be less, but that's reality. That's a reality. The numbers, there's not 10,000 people doing subway crime. It's a few hundred people,
Right.
But they're consistent, and they're consistent because they're not being held accountable. They're not getting locked up, and they're emboldened by the fact that they know they can get away with it.
Yeah, and the no bail, the bail thing has made that really massive now, because it happens all the time. And basically, for a professional criminal, the worst thing that happens to you is you get a couple of hour interruption.
Right.
So if I'm a drug dealer, I got to take 3-4 hours out of my business,
Right.
to go down, get no bail, and go back right out and sell drugs again.
Right.
And if it gets more than that, they complain. It's absurd, but it actually comes from the fact, and it's really hard for people to believe this. The criminals are a major constituency of the Democrat Party, and the law-abiding people they consider antagonistic. The law-abiding people are fascists, white supremacists, or Uncle Toms if they're black. If they're black, there's even worse.
Mhm.
My goodness, if you are black and you're pro-police,
Oh, you get hammered.
you can't exist in the black community.
You get hammered.
That's not racism. That's not prejudice. That's not bigotry.
Yeah. Listen, take somebody like Vernon Jones or Mark Robinson in North Carolina. As soon as they come out and they criticize some of the stuff going on, they're called racist. They're called Uncle Toms. They're annihilated in the press by the mainstream media.
Yeah, I mean, there's Senator Scott, Byron Donalds. And I think it's the same thing as what they're doing to me. They're doing this to me to deter the lawyers, and it's working. You know how hard it was to get lawyers for all the 19 people in Georgia.
Yep.
It took weeks. One poor guy went to jail because he couldn't get a lawyer. And it's not that the lawyers. There isn't a real lawyer in Georgia that thinks it's even a case.
Right.
They let
Oh,
it
I know.
and it isn't a case. It's a ridiculous. The guy is complaining about being cheated on an election, in which, whether you like it or not, there is more evidence. The evidence could fill the room in this house of all the people that cheated in Georgia.
Yep.
There's a report, a very responsible one from Senator Ligon, which explains it in 22 pages if you bother to read it. And it is demonstrable, it's provable. Then you could go to 2000 Mules, the work they did, which is scientific, never. So, but even if you don't agree with him that it affected the result, he sure as heck had a lot of evidence. If you were him you'd be really pissed off. You'd
right.
really be pissed off. This happened to you in Georgia.
Well, listen, we
They
used to
won't even get in that room.
listen, if you recall, we used to talk to the president on a daily basis. We brief him on a daily basis as to what we were finding, what the interviews had proven, who was coming forward, all the evidence that we were collecting. So people have said to me, he stood up and he made these false statements. He didn't make false statements. He had every right to believe then, and more of a right to believe today, that there was overwhelming evidence. And the reason he has more of a right to believe today is because since 2020, probably 60 to 70% of the stuff that we were looking at has been confirmed.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Well, all they do is ignore it and debunk it and say, you're an election denier.
yeah,
Well, so is Hillary Clinton an election denier.
yeah.
I mean, but in any event, this is a free country. It's a political issue. You're supposed to have even more room under the First Amendment if it's a political issue. You don't have a right to contest an election. You don't have a right to hire lawyers to do it. And I don't have a right to argue for them. I'm supposed to argue for my client. I actually am supposed to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to, if there's a piece of evidence that could be interpreted either way, I have to interpret it your way to help you.
Yeah, but you know what, Mayor, and I think people lose sight of this. When they targeted President Trump, they started on him. They went to his family. They went to his friends. They went to his donors. They went to his supporters. They went to his constituency. And when all of that, when they took all of that and they targeted everybody around him, and it wasn't slowing him down, what did they do? They went after the one thing that historically, the attorney-client privilege was
Sacred.
it was sacred. Then they went after that. And in going after the attorney-client privilege, they actually targeted the attorneys. How many attorneys that work for Donald Trump has been subpoenaed, has been interviewed, has been questioned, has been harassed?
In that case, at least 4 are attorneys charged with RICO.
Right. Right.
One of them has written a seminal constitutional law book, and he was the president of a college and the dean of a law school, Eastman. I mean, totally. If you met Professor Eastman, you would either cry or laugh that somebody is suggesting he's a criminal, which is why I am so happy all these things came out on Fannie the Hoe, because she is a completely corrupt woman, thoroughly corrupt. You couldn't do what she did without being thoroughly corrupt. Plus, when she had that phony grand jury, the one that created more money for her to give to her lover boy. She had 2. When did we ever have 2 grand juries when we were in law enforcement in the Southern District? So she has a grand jury that's going to recommend, and then she has a grand jury that's going to indict. My lawyer and I, Bob Costello, was saying, "What the hell is she doing that for?" We didn't realize the guy questioned me. I mean, I knew he was a jackass. He couldn't ask a question. He didn't seem like let me be nice. He didn't seem like a skilled lawyer.
Right.
I tried to help him with some of the questions. Guy wasn't. I had nothing to hide.
Was that Wade?
Yeah. He questioned me for 5 hours. The forelady of the grand jury gave me a kiss on the cheek.
No, I remember.
They took pictures with me. She had me come to her office for a social greeting, Fannie.
Yeah.
And he, of course, Loverboy was there too, looking jealous, But it's outrageous. The one that I don't get, she admitted taking money from her campaign fund. Don't you do anything? I mean, what the hell's wrong with you? You don't have any laws here. Yeah, she said, I took cash from my campaign fund. She may have said a lot. And I used it for personal expenses, like paying Loverboy for her share of the trip, which of course is total bull. There's no receipt. There's no anything.
But Mayor, hold on. Listen, how many drug cases did you do as a U.S. attorney?
I ran the.
I was in the DEA task force for 4.5 years. I can tell you, if we had a target that talked about, I keep this much cash in my house. And I paid off these bills with cash. And I did that with cash. And said all that stuff. She said,
Yeah.
they would have boomed her door before she left, but she would have never made it out of the courthouse.
All right.
They would have served a search warrant before she got out of the seat, which demonstrates how corrupt this whole thing is. Not to mention, she sounded, if you listen to
Not a
it,
DA.
she sounded like a racist thug
Yeah.
with a law degree.
I gave her a G.
What's a G?
Listen,
Yeah, yeah.
a G. Or I gave her a G.
Jeez.
Who talks like that? DAs don't talk like that. I mean, she's an educated woman, but she obviously has spent a lot of time in the street.
Yeah.
But keeping the cash from what gets me is how crooked Fulton County has to be.
How crooked does Fulton County
The governor.
when the
And the attorney general.
when the judge allowed her to stay in the case?
Yeah.
This is a judge he worked for her. He put money in her campaign. He campaigned for her. Okay. And he lets her stay in the case.
His wife also gave her a campaign contribution, and then he makes a decision that's inherently inconsistent and betrays just how biased he is. He gave him a choice as to who should.
Yeah.
They both did something wrong. Otherwise, he can't say you have to recuse yourself.
Right.
But it's not by the very nature of what they did, two people got to do it.
Yeah, right.
They both did it. So they get to decide who's more culpable, not the judge. Oh, and by the way, it's the public official who's always more culpable. Not the, I mean, in bribery cases, person you want is the public official, not the guy offering the bribe.
Right.
And in this particular case, she's the one who constructed this whole damn thing. And here's another one. And they don't pursue it. You can't tell me she didn't select him because she wanted to go between that she could trust with the White House.
Right.
There's a reason for this. Yep. A lot of nice money they could whack up and go on more vacations than Biden. She looks like she's a corrupt.
I don't know if she could do more vacations than Biden. This guy's on a steady vacation.
Apparently, she was more active on hers, though. So but in any event, the real reason for it is, and this is why it's important that he was the lover beforehand. She had somebody she could trust, and he went to those 2 meetings at the White House that could only be about timing the case so they could jam up Trump with something unprecedented, 4 major criminal trials in 1 year. I never heard of any with 4 major criminal trials in 1 year. You can't do 4 major criminal trials in 1 year. If I represented someone who had 4 major criminal trials in 1 year, I guarantee you the judge would put 3 of them off.
Right.
Right away. The 4 judges that get together, I mean, I've seen it happen actually, when people with 2 trials, the judges get together and they agree which one goes first, and then I'll give you 6 months for the next one.
Right.
The idea is to give somebody a fair trial. And the government has no right to a speedy trial.
Right.
It's a constitutional right that comes out of the first 10 Amendment. It's a personal right. It's your right, my right, not the government.
Right.
I mean, so I don't know. We're going to take a short break, boss. All right. And we'll be right back. You're very quiet today. Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live from Georgia on Good Friday. I always get confused about Good Friday because I don't know exactly. You can't say like Happy Good Friday. I guess Holy Good Friday or someone called me on the radio today and said Good Friday.
It's a good Friday. It's a good Friday.
Way to do it. So Ted here has he's been bugging me with this. He's going to ask you this question all day.
We have leaders from the audience, Commissioner Carrick here. What a great way to end the week. Commissioner, we're seeing this trend in New York City where young women are being literally punched in the face. And we're seeing this happen repeatedly. What would you do if you were commissioner and this sort of thing was happening?
The one thing they can do, and they can do this based on statistics and what they know, where it's happening and when it's happening. What I would do is I'd flood the streets with a bunch of females that happen to be police officers in plain clothes, stick them out there and let this guy come out of the woodwork and do whatever he's doing. And then at one at a time, take these guys out. You can't, if you have targets that are in the streets, these women, and some of these women, I've listened to the interviews, same location, around the same time, different days apart. Get 10 females from the NYPD and you saturate those areas and let them be out as decoy unit in the PD. Decoys would sit around in plain clothes and they would look like they were drunks on a train, but they weren't drunk. They were sitting on the train waiting to be robbed. Somebody would come up on them, try to rob them, and then we would take them out. Same thing, in this circumstance, you flood the area with female decoys, you wait for these guys to hit, and then you lock them up. And if you have the right DAs, if you have the right judges, these guys are going to go away for a long time. Unfortunately, a lot of these cases aren't being reported because these women, they just don't think anybody's going to do anything about it anyway.
Yeah.
I just
So now he believes. Now you know what he believes now because you told him. I told him the same thing a couple hours ago. I also said that one of the changes we made in policing that nobody ever really quite realizes, but you realized it, and a lot of people doing it realized. We moved it from arrest as the major objective to preventing crime.
Yeah, right.
Where the
Well,
arrest
the
is a necessary default or fallback, but the thing to try to do is to anticipate what these people are going to do,
And that's why the data collection is so important. Knowing ComStat, knowing where this stuff is going on, when it's going on, why it's going on, how. If you are collecting that data and using it correctly, you're going to have a real basic idea where you can be extremely preventative. And in this case, this isn't rocket science. This stuff can be done and done easily. You just have to have an administration that's going to put the manpower in the streets and then work with the judges and the prosecutors. Our problem is prosecutors and the judges. They're not going to lock these guys up and throw away the
I
key.
think also too few cops.
Mayor,
Even if we had them organized,
I had 22 years ago
I
when
think we could have done it with the number we have.
listen,
right
22
now,
years
I
ago
think.
when I left, I had 55,000, 41,000 uniforms.
I think.
Today they have 35,000. This is 22 years later. It's an increase in New York City's population, and they have 6,000 or 7,000 less uniformed cops than I had. That's ridiculous. It's preposterous.
No, we got we had 170,000 really unvetted migrants come into this city this year. We have no idea who the hell they are. They're not all bad, but some of them are probably the worst criminals from their country. Because unlike even when we were there, that's what they're doing now. It's almost like a massive Mario boat lift. They're all pulling. The crime is down in Ecuador. Crime is down in Venezuela. In Venezuela, Maduro's bragging about how much he's reducing crime.
Yeah, he also bragged that he let him out. He let him out of prison, and they all came to the U.S. Okay.
But like these people, a lot of these people, like Ibarra, the guy who killed Laken Riley, whose name Biden can't get right. Well, Bernie,
I have one more, but I have to know while we're on video still, how did you two meet? Or how did this come together where you,
we met because didn't we meet because of the fundraiser? It wasn't.
We met in 19.
I knew you before that, right?
First time I ever met the mayor was 1989 or 1990. There was a fundraiser for a cop that was shot and killed named Michael Busick.
Yeah.
In October of 1988, there were two cops that were shot and killed on the same night. It was October 18th, Michael Busick and Chris Hoban. And Michael Busick's family created a foundation in his honor. They put together a memorial dinner, and at that second memorial dinner,
they were shot in 80. They were shot the year I was running in 89, and their funeral
shot in 88.
In 88.
And in 89, you lost.
Yeah. But and they had a funeral, if I recall correctly, to get together with that church where in Brooklyn, where you
with the double steps,
really very striking. You could bring the caskets up together.
Yep,
it was really, and I got to know the family,
right,
the Busick family,
right,
and then sometime after they had a fundraiser.
And Ted, I want to tell you something about the mayor, and this is something that nobody knows or really
was out of office now.
He was out of office, was done running at the time. And we were told the fundraiser was going to be in Wayne, New Jersey. And Mr. Busick was told by your office that you had a christening to go to in Staten Island, but you would try to stop by. And I could remember telling the family, I said, listen, he's coming out of New York. He's got to go to Staten Island. He's never going to come all the way out here west to Jersey and then go to Staten Island. And I was downstairs. I was waiting and talking to the family, and somebody ran downstairs and said, Rudy Giuliani's here. And I didn't believe it. And I ran upstairs. I saw you. I introduced myself, and I took you downstairs. And I'll tell you this one last thing, Ted. When I went up to him and I saw him, I had hair down to the middle of my back. I did. I had 6 diamond earrings and a gold loop, and I had a big goatee. And I walked up to him when I said, Mr. Mayor, hi, I'm Bernie Kerik. And I went to shake his hand, and he literally looked at me like, who the hell is this? It's crazy.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
Yes, thank you, Bernie.
Right, well, second time, but being a part of the campaign in 2020, you were right there with him.
It was, yeah, we
been together a long time.
Yeah.
Long time.
It was the most frustrating experience ever, though, that campaign, the investigating that campaign.
Yeah.
And also, I'll tell you what was frustrating as hell, the hard drive. Yeah. Knowing that the guy there, forget even Trump, knowing that the guy they're considering for president is a 30 to 35 year major crook.
Yeah.
And he's on his way to the White House, pulling in millions from Red China.
Yeah.
Like, that's got to be close to treason if it isn't treason. Russia. Yeah. You know it, and you're trying to get the people just to know it. And the entire media tries to stop you, get you fired, break your legs, keep you off television. I mean, it's really amazing.
It's a different time.
Yeah. Well, God bless you, Bernie.
Thank you.
And
sir.
happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
The tree. So we'll take
We'll be back very shortly.
The new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live. I want to tell that as Bernie was leaving him, I asked him the question that I've been pondering for some time. I know with you also, which is why did Rivera why did Rivera shoot him? It was a traffic stop, but remember, Rivera also had a knife up his backside, which is a pure prisoner thing, right? And so he's ready to take this guy out either way. Bernie's theory is he's worried that after having pushed it so much, if they caught him with a gun, he was going in, and he didn't want to go in because some of them eventually develop like a real mental thing about going in. So Bernie, I'm not still convinced there wasn't more to it. I think these people had something in mind. I do. And I think the guy lying about being a hitchhiker driving, I don't know if you've ever picked up a hitchhiker. I don't recommend it, but you don't pick up a hitchhiker and let him drive your car. I mean, I just like, you investigate based on common sense. Since we can't know what people do, and we have to assume they do the normal things that they do. And then if there's a change, you make the change and you adjust it in the pattern of the hypothesis of the crime. So you got to figure that he's lying about being a hitchhiker. He's almost as bad, if not worse, than the guy who did it. He's a 14-time arrested guy, serious crimes. I think attempted murder at least once, and he belongs to a gang. I don't know if Rivera does. This guy belongs to a gang. And his nickname is Killer. It's spelled a little differently. Killa. Well, that's a pretty indicative nickname in a gang, huh? Well, what do you think? So there's something that was there was something that snapped in them that suggested they were in real trouble. And he shot him right away. As soon as the door opened, the guy shot low because he was down low. And that was the fatal decision because the officer had a vest on. And I'm pretty certain that the gun, which I think was a 9mm, even at close range, I think the vest would have protected him. I mean, can't imagine how many times I've also gone to the hospital with vests and the bullet is like almost through. But and we're talking about vests now, 20 years later, they're a hell of a lot better. They're a hell of a lot better. And they've saved a lot of my police officers, a lot. I mean, I would sometimes kiss the vest. Think about it. Before the vest, that guy was dead. I mean, sometimes it'd be right at the heart. But the vest ends, and he was coming up from the bottom. Also, when the habitual liar in the White House, Biden is the mentally ill, pathological liar. What is it, KJP? The one who lies all the time? She's the habitual liar. Also, the one that says inherently stupid things, like this was all because of gun control. She kind of missed that he had a knife up his backside, which I think he was probably very good at using. So if the cop had taken the gun, unless the cop shot him right away, that knife was going right into the stomach, probably almost in one motion. That's why it's there, to protect him in jail. The guy probably uses a knife better than a gun. So no, KJP, except I only know of one case where the gun committed the crime all by itself. And that's your friend, Democrat, Alec Baldwin. Poor guy. He never pushed the trigger. The wind hit the trigger and made the gun go off because Alex wouldn't pull the trigger. No, not a left-wing jackass like him. He wouldn't do that. Notice all of the empathy he had for the person that he kills, too. It really overwhelms you. I think something happens to these left-wing people. It's like theoretical concern about the poor, but since they make them poorer, lock them in the ghettos so that they can take advantage of them, throw them out of Martha's Vineyard as soon as they show up. I mean, a long time ago, a moderate Democrat in New York named Mario Procaccino named these guys limousine liberals. They'll donate lots of money. They love to go to charitable fundraisers because the charitable fundraisers are at the it used to be the Copacabana, or like last night, Radio City Music Hall with that was like almost like a convention of Black Lives Matter contributors. I think I would love to go over the list of the people who donated and helped to raise money for Black Lives Matter that were at that, and then point out the unseemliness of the fact that these people were having this gathering at the night that a police officer was lying dead in a casket because of the increase now in police killings, all of which were encouraged by Black Lives Matter as part of their operational program. They are a cop-killing organization. Mm-hmm. And there are many things that can prove it, including their literature. But of course, their slogan, oft repeated loudly, about pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon, is encouragement to kill police officers to people who maybe are leading that way anyway. And it works because we've seen a big rise in police violence against police. Also, the people who help them form Black Lives Matter, the advisors, are made up of 2, maybe 3 cop killers who were pardoned by Democrat presidents, like Epstein's friend who was there last night, the guy who loved to fly around on Epstein's plane, but never knew what was going on the plane because he's a very unaware guy and has no kind of sense of what goes on sexually. He just flew on the plane and he didn't know what was going on. Nothing about the kids. He probably slept on the plane. And that's Bill Clinton. Think about it. He's surrounded by 2 guys. One guy is Epstein's best friend, right? Or he's the one that I know of that was on the plane the most, right? I don't know anybody who's on the plane 27 times. How the hell you don't know what's going on if you're on that damn plane 27 times? I mean, you had to slip a little. Must have been something you liked about being on that plane, Bill. So we got Epstein's best friend, the guy who sold the Lincoln bedroom. That's very high integrity, and the guy who was on the telephone with Congressman while a staff member was giving him sex. A disgrace. When I walked into Nancy Reagan's office to give the speech of the year for the Reagan Library, and oh gosh, it was shortly after he got caught or had to admit, or it was after he lied and after Hillary lied and they tried to ruin her, and then it was absolutely true what she was saying from the very beginning. I mean, no one goes back over the fact that for 6 months they tried to ruin that girl, and Hillary led the charge to destroy her. Like bimbo squad they had during the campaign. So we've got a totally, how would you describe Biden? Amoral, completely amoral, uh, trail of trash who became an international millionaire by selling himself out. The Lincoln, the Lincoln bedroom was certainly an indication of it, but that wasn't big money. And in Arkansas, it was chump change, but they were still trailer trash then. When they hit the big time, then it was the millions and the hundreds of millions and the plutonium going to Russia. And biggest contributor to the Clinton Foundation, the little country of Ukraine. So you don't need, if you have common sense, you can figure these things out. They jump out at you, you know? They really do. They just jump right out at you. Boom, bang, bing, ba boom. So last night, we did a remarkable piece, I think, and we are going over the weekend, I hope, or maybe early next week. We're going to put out like just a special on Biden's mental illness. But the mental illness here we're talking about is where his level of pathological lying is so great that it's at the stage of a significantly dangerous mental illness, which puts him in a delusional state and has led to the death of people. And we're going to show it to you because I've been doing a lot of work, and last night I gave you some of it, but I hadn't had a chance to go through the BDSM-5 yet. I did that today. And now I think we're about there. But if you go back, there are people that estimate, but because you don't know this for sure because you're not with him, that this guy lies like 4 or 5 times a day. And they don't think, pathological liars come in different forms. Like some of them don't know they're lying. They think that he knows he's lying. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why they think that. But I happen to know something about him that always gave me sort of like a hint into these heroic stories he would tell that weren't true. You know, I was first in the class. I had 5 scholarships. I have a higher IQ than you do. This guy is suffering from, he was the dumbest guy in the block, if he lived on a block, in the area, maybe in the whole damn county, in his school. We got to check this, but I'm told he was left back in the 3rd grade, which sometimes can be very good, but it didn't have him recuperate. He got worse. The plagiarizing in law school, which we showed you on the video last night, wasn't one time. Plagiarized all the time, and he cheated all the time. And people liked him. He was a lot of fun, but it was really dangerous to sit next to him because he was looking at your paper. So we combine a man with no honesty at all. He's inherently dishonest and an automatic liar. And then we get warned in 1988 by the major journalists of their day, liberal. Some of them used to torture Ronald Reagan. We get warned that the guy should never be president. And thank God he's going to be dropped out. They call him either stupid or corrupt. They were correct, but he's both. They called him a criminal. They called him a lightweight. They said he was finished. They said he was a disgrace to the party. That he'd never be president. Most of them are gone now. I wonder what they think of their current members of their profession who made him president by hiding. First of all, by hiding all that from them. And number 2, hiding probably the most dramatic, incisive, comprehensive evidence of crime that was available in the middle of a political campaign ever in history by hiding it and getting a whole bunch of people that were high-level intelligence people become complete organized crime cover-up artists. Amazing story. So we're going to give you a little of that on America's Mayor Confidential next week. So I want to conclude tonight by wishing you a happy Easter, because we won't see you until after Easter. This is Good Friday night. And tomorrow night in all the Christian churches, they celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, and of course on Sunday. And it's the greatest event in history. The greatest event in history is Jesus's defeat of sin and defeat of death, and giving us the way, the truth, and the light through him. So God bless you. We ask for his prayers for everyone, for all of his creation, to enlighten us. And in particular, we could use a little extra help here in America, God. God bless America, and happy Easter.
Is to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply